In the mid-19th century, the Ottoman Empire initiated a series of sweeping reforms, known as the Tanzimat, that marked a turning point for Palestine's economy. After centuries of stagnation, Palestine's population and economy began to grow. Although we don't have numbers for all of Palestine in 1860, we do have data on exports from the port of Jaffa, which totaled around $30 million in today's dollars. While Palestinian farming methods remained traditional, they were well adapted to local conditions and generated substantial agricultural surpluses, making Palestine a notable exporter to global markets in the 19th century. This resulted in a positive trade balance. Over the next 40 years, the value of the port of Jaffa's exports quadrupled, reaching $115 million by 1900. One of the highest birth rates in the world, combined with a now declining infant mortality rate, resulted in a baby boom. The population grew from 411,000 in 1860 to 595,000 by 1900, a 44.8% increase in 40 years due to natural growth. To put that into perspective, Palestine in 1900 had a population density of 57.6 per square mile, and the U.S. had a population density of 21.5 per square mile. So Palestine was 167% more densely populated than the U.S. in 1900. Things were looking up. After centuries of stagnation, Palestine was finally on a growth track and looking forward to a more prosperous future, integrated into the modern global economy. Then the Zionists arrived. Ahad Ha'am was the founder of cultural Zionism. In 1891, he wrote from Palestine, "We abroad are used to believe the Eretz Yisrael is now almost totally desolate, a desert that is not sowed." But in truth, that is not the case. Throughout the country, it is difficult to find fields that are not sowed. Only sand dunes and stony mountains are not cultivated. The Zionists had no interest in those stony mountains and sand dunes where they could make the desert bloom. Instead, they purchased land in the most fertile, intensively cultivated, and most populated regions, the coastal plain near Jaffa and in the Jezreel Valley. A significant portion of this land was purchased from absentee landowners. Absentee landowners, such as the Sursak banking dynasty, were bankrolling the bankrupt Ottoman government. During the period from 1869 to 1872, the government colluded with them to swindle large numbers of fellahin out of their land rights. Although this reduced thousands of fellahin to tenant status, there was still a social compact that the fellahin would never lose the right to graze and cultivate the lands they had farmed for centuries. They would just pay a new tax collector. In 1883, Zionist settlers from Poland arrived to reestablish Petah, Tikva, a failed early settlement. The settlers demanded that the fellahin in the Arab village of al-Yahudiya cease cultivation and grazing on land they now held title to. This outraged the fellahin. A bunch of foreigners who had no respect for local customs were depriving them of their inalienable rights. Rights that had been respected for centuries, even by predatory absentee landlords and corrupt imperial authorities. What followed was escalating tit-for-tat aggression. Arabs plowed the disputed field and seized a horse. Settlers confiscated 8 or 9 Arab donkeys. When negotiations failed, Arabs went to Petah Tikva armed with clubs to retrieve their animals. This degenerated into vandalism, looting, and 5 injured settlers, one of whom later died. These clashes over resources and land rights played out between several villages and settlements. Samuel Hirsch, the Petah Tikva colony manager, wrote just weeks after the incident that it did not stem from religious or national hatred, but rather from the specifics of Turkish land tenure rules. Petah Tikva was ideologically committed to exclusive Jewish labor from the start. This would become the norm by the Mandate period. However, most of the early Rothschild agricultural enterprises made extensive use of Arab labor as it was experienced and cheap. Zionist intellectual Ahad Ha'am was shocked by how these Arabs were treated. They behaved towards the Arabs with hostility and cruelty, trespass unjustly upon their boundaries, beat them shamefully without reason, and even brag about it. And nobody stands to check this contemptible and dangerous tendency. This was the beginning of an escalating cycle of colonial oppression, dispossession, resistance, and violence. In 1899, Yusuf Diya al-Khalidi, former mayor of Jerusalem, wrote to Zadok Kahn, the chief rabbi of France. He expressed sympathy with the Zionist desire for a Jewish homeland, but offered a prophetic warning. Palestine is an integral part of the Ottoman Empire, and more gravely, it is inhabited by others. In the name of God, let Palestine be left alone. Kahn forwarded the letter to Theodor Herzl, who replied to al-Khalidi. Herzl's response was reassuring and placating. Speaking of the Arabs, he wrote, "Who would think of removing them? Their well-being and prosperity will increase. The tenant will become a landowner. The big landowners will be the first to profit." But Herzl's private writings told a different story. When we occupy the land, we shall try to spirit the penniless population across the border, while denying it any employment in our own country. Expropriation and removal must be carried out discreetly and circumspectly. These three quotes encapsulate the violence and disaster to come. 1. Palestinians would fight to stay in their homes. 2. Zionist leaders shaped their public message to suit their audience. But 3. This masked their ultimate goal: population transfer and ethnic cleansing. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you would like to see more content like this.